drivers gone astray, caught up in the games they play. High-speed chases gone awry, serious turns into pie in the sky. Just out of jurisdiction, left her in the conviction.
VA or a Veterans Day thing, and I get up there and I'm like, today. I was like, and it started squealing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to run off stage. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. And I got into it, and it never did. They never did fix that. And I was trying to back away, trying to figure out what the best.
It throws you off.
Oh, it did. And I was like, what was I talking about? And then my ADHD, I was like, and Nathan Stewart was like, you got off track. You started chasing that rabbit just a little bit. He said, but you reeled it back in finally. I only meant to go like 5 minutes. I think I went like 20. I was like, my bad.
I always hated hearing myself like on the radio, like afterwards and recording. I was like, I sound like crap.
I listened to our podcast back, but I'm like, God, I'm such a hick, and maybe there's a lot of things I'm sure he's got to turn down, but I'm like, my goodness, I'm an absolute idiot.
Oh, well, he started making fun of me when I started dating Ashley. She lives in she lives in
she's a
Oldham
Yankee.
County.
She's from the rich
She's
country.
from the rich county.
Yeah, so he decided to change his language for her.
I would go up there and stay with her for like a week or something and come back, and I would come back and I'd say 5 instead of 5. You know, and he's like, why are you talking like that?
So then what's wrong with you?
I'm educated.
I would go back after her, and she'd be like, why are you saying like that?
Where's my friend? I know what bells of hail.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's funny.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All
Y'all
right.
ready? Everybody
Intro.
ready? All right. Welcome back, guys. It's
Finally.
been a little while. Yeah,
Sorry.
we're rusty. It's life gets in the way. I'm working nights. Travis is
Working.
pretending he's working.
Yeah, I'm driving every day.
So yeah, night shift's fun, but it kicks the wind out of pretty much anything else you're wanting to do.
I don't think we've done one since. Who was our last?
It's been a long time. I can't even remember what our last one was.
Are we the first of 26?
Yes, you're the first.
Congrats.
Of 26.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Starting back with 2 legends here.
What about legends?
Depends on the audience.
More notorious.
Oh my gosh. We've got Chantz McPeek in here, and I've known you since forever. I mean, I remember you running around when I was living on Clark Street or Morgan Street there, and you was running around across the road over there, hanging out with people.
Hoghead's?
Yeah, at Hoghead's house.
Yeah.
And then just from that, and now you're becoming an old man. Because I'll be 50 in like a couple of weeks.
We were talking about that earlier. You said time flies once you start having kids. It's a blink.
Yeah.
You know.
It's all downhill from there.
And also we have one of my maybe the greatest dispatcher I've ever known.
I don't know about that.
And fire chief now?
I'm deputy chief now. I was
got
fire
demoted?
chief for 8 years.
Did you demote yourself?
I demoted myself when I retired from dispatch. I was like, I'm done for a minute. I just need a break and wanted to walk away.
He's still knee deep in it.
So, but within 6 months, I was back. So it's kind of like the mob. You know, you think you're out, and they pull you back in.
It's hard to stay out.
It is.
We got Terry
hard to stay
Wattenbargar with us. So you'll hear us refer to him as Booger at times because there's nothing like his love, and it was some Booger love on it. And we worked together. Well, my whole career up till I retired, I guess, or both.
Yeah.
What year did you retire from
I
dispatch?
retired in 2023.
So I was
2023.
April 23, but I was retired a little earlier.
Yeah, you were chief when I think you were chief or just got ready to be chief when I retired.
Golly.
If I remember
So that was
right.
22 then.
Yeah, 22. August
Yeah.
1, 2022 was my first day of retirement.
And I started that job in July of 22. So we had a month like that of sitting on the board anyway together. So
When did you go to the PD, Travis?
I went to the police department in 2002. I started
So I'd been there
November.
20 years.
Huh?
I started in 1992.
Oh my God. Ugh.
Good Lord.
That was my first day.
That's when I started the
10
fire
years.
department. Then.
Halloween night of 1992 was my first night I stepped into dispatch.
So how
Jesus.
many years from dispatch to fire to how many years of service?
40 years. In July of this year will be 40 years.
God. Not. So
Long
now,
time.
Chance, you've done everything too. So that's let's hear all your path.
So it's a funny story. When I was in middle school, right after 9/11, one of the gentlemen that I was actually on the student council. He came in and had a fire department jacket, and I said, "Man, that's pretty cool. How do you get involved in that? I'd like to do something like that." And his dad was actually on the fire department, and that's when I got involved with Mike Walker. It was Wes Walker. I got involved with Mike and Hoghead at the time, and started running around. That was in 2002.
Yeah.
And I started running around and chasing fire trucks, as I call it.
How old were you then?
Lord, I don't know. What was I? Like,
That's got math involved on that.
but at the time, they actually didn't have like a junior fire program. Now, Terry and I both work for the Kentucky Fire Commission, and there actually is a junior fire program that has been implemented through the state. But back then, there was not. So we basically just called ourselves junior firemen. They let us run calls, and we rode in the fire trucks and helped. If it was rolling hose or sweeping the bay, anything we were allowed to do besides going into fires, we were there and we done it. And man, I really enjoyed that. And then the cadet program got fired back up with EMS in 2002. And I went and joined forces there and began doing some EMS ride-alongs and getting some training there. And then I became an EMT in 2006, and then obviously when I was 18 at that point, and became a certified firefighter through the state of Kentucky as a volunteer. And I was at the county for a long time. I grew up there, and then went away for a while. Went to the city and the rescue squad right after I began with the fire commission from 2012 to 2020, and then back at the county on the board in 2017. Terry was the fire chief, and he can go into all the details on the timelines of that. But we've been together a long time, and like he said,
He's raised you.
He's raised me.
Pulled him right back in,
It's I told somebody, I said, I don't feel like I know a lot, but this is all I know.
Yeah,
and, I enjoy it.
That's this is my 24th year in policing. I'm still out, working as a SRO, but still, though, anytime you got to wear a gun in a
It's all
vest,
the same job. It's just
I just don't
different
chase
locations.
any tail lights, but you still got the responsibility of that and the worry and the stress and things like that. But I was asking my mom, I was like, I'm afraid I'm a one trick pony now. So I don't know.
Well,
This
we've
is
said
what I
it
know.
before. I mean, as in this type of work, you're not really qualified for anything, but you're overqualified for most. So it's
That's a valid way of looking at it.
I don't know how to translate what I've done into a civilian side at sometimes.
It's
I know
tough.
if I could figure that out, they'd probably hear like, hey, you're well qualified. I just don't know how it relates.
Yeah, I was
sometimes.
really lucky when I retired. I stayed out for about a year, and I retired knowing that I was going back to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 52.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to stay unemployed and just draw a check. And luckily, the fire commission came along, and they had an opening in the Somerset, and the District 14 coordinator was leaving, and I'm like, I watched Chantz do that job. I could probably do that.
If he can do it, I can. I mean, come on.
I was like,
All he does is talk on the phone and drive around.
yeah. Little did I know. Little did I know. I thought I knew a little bit about it. And it's a tougher job, but I like it. It's something that I like and I enjoy, and it's a good retirement.
It's
job,
not like that far off of like fire,
No,
the
it's,
emergency service side, so it's not that big of a. Maybe some of the contacts and the different reporting stuff might be different, but still you well vast in.
When
in
our
that.
station was on TLC Lane there off of 4th Street, the District 13 office, which is what I do now as the coordinator, the office was actually in the fire station. And Mark Rutter, who was the coordinator. He's now the actual state fire training director for the whole state. So he's our boss. His office was in the fire department. So Terry and I, being at the fire department, and all the guys there, we began a friendship with Mark, and that lasted. Well, we're still good friends, but at that point, we started seeing, actually what state fire rescue training was about and how that worked, and us being there all the time, we're like, hey, give us a job. And I don't know that he did the first time, but one of the times after we had asked,
You wore it down.
Well, sometimes it's stuck.
so he hired us to start teaching.
The only way to get rid of these guys is hire them, and then maybe we can get rid of them a different way.
Yeah, it's like,
Then
now
I
we'll
can tell
hire
them
him full time.
Then I can tell them what to do for real.
But he gave us a shot to teach, and Terry had been in the fire service and took a little break, and I was still pretty new in the fire service as a young officer, and we were teaching a lot as it was, and then next thing you know, we started teaching for state fire rescue, and that relationship, like I said, it just carried on, but we really enjoyed it. And now, as things happen, you never really, what's the old saying, life is what happens when you're busy making plans. I don't know that was ever really the plan, but I'm thankful for how it's turned out, because I
we
think
both are, we're neighbors now in our districts. And
So you explain how what you all do, the fire commission, how that works, because I'm not. Like, y'all just provide the training and resources? Is that what?
we basically provide training to all, like my district is District 14. So I cover 56 fire departments in 12 counties, and it's like Pulaski and farther west. Chantz covers.
I got 9 counties and 61 departments.
Yeah. So, but each of those departments receive 21 hours of training free of charge from state fire rescue training. And we are the coordinators over those districts. So we coordinate scheduling those classes and getting that training to them using what we call adjunct instructors, which is where we started. And then we provide that to them through that and schedule training on their nights that they like to have the training on. Some of them have it on Monday, some of them have it on Tuesday. So,
well, let's talk about 300 and 400 on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah,
in Bottle Rock.
we still do those. We still do those. I just did one in Mount Sterling in 2 weeks. You should have came. Hey, if you need it again, you can come see me. Because if you took it before 2019, now you got to take it again.
Oh no!
Yeah, it's a lot, and the fire commission as a whole, basically, we oversee training and compliance and assist fire departments throughout the state. State fire rescue training, the division we're with, we basically focus on training the fire departments. You get in bigger municipalities and, even like London and Corbin, they may have quite a few folks that are instructors that they don't need a class on a Tuesday night once a month. Right. But a lot of your volunteer departments, that's what they need to help maintain certification with their members. So they rely on us a little more than others. And, but we do a lot of different things as far as training. It may be ladders class, like you mentioned, Bald Rock on a Monday night, but let's say a city fire department, they may need a rope rescue technician class. So we do a lot of different things, but it's brought us a lot of opportunities. Terry and I both traveled around, not just in Kentucky, but in different states, helping with looking at programs and state training programs and assisting them and trying to make them better. And then they come and do the same for us. So it's been, again, it's one of them things that I never really had that in my view, growing up, what I want to be. But man, it's been a really enjoyable experience.
So with fire, with training that way, to keep our certifications in law enforcement, we have to have 40 hours a year, like event service. Is it similar with fire, or is it more?
It's 20.
It's just 20. That's all you have to have
for a basic volunteer firefighter.
For a volunteer.
Okay.
It's 20 hours a year to keep your basic one certification. That's basic one that is required. It's 115 hours of training. They become basic one certified. Then from there on out, every year they have to have 20 hours of training to keep that certification active.
Okay.
But a career firefighter that has to work, full time, they have to get 100 hours of training annually. But they don't have to
quite a
go
bit
all the
more,
way to
yeah.
the academy.
Right.
They can do that in-house as long as they're getting those 100 hours of training each year.
So it's kind of like ride time and things like that you have to pick up as an EMT or.
Well, EMT ride time, that's a lot of that's to get certification. The hours, they actually have to, they can't count just going to fires. They actually have to sit in classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a
100
lot of
hours.
them do that on shift. That's the one benefit of having like a career department is they're usually divided in 3 or 4 shifts depending on how they work, 24, 48, or 48, 72. So they'll train on shift and get like 3 hours a shift usually, and that gets them to that 100
That's awesome.
hours each year. And then they, like Chance was saying earlier, sometimes they may not want us to come in and do that 3 hours, but they may want an ICS 300 class, or they may want a road rescue or a confined space technician or something like that, a bigger class that we can come in and provide for them versus just doing those 3-hour daily or nightly classes.
Okay.
Wow. So I think I always thought maybe, I knew y'all provided the training and maybe the oversight, maybe, or something that the volunteer chiefs or whoever can contact or get.
If they have questions or something like and that's one thing about the Fire Commission, and Chance mentioned it, they do some grants, like they just opened the training facility grant for the Kentucky Fire Commission. So any department in the Commonwealth can apply and say, we want to build a training tower. It's going to cost X amount of dollars. And they can submit an application and try to obtain that grant to help provide the money. They'll have to have property, or, they may say, we're going to put in this much money.
Yeah.
Can you all give us this much money? We actually obtained one of those grants at the Laurel County Fire Department, which we're both a member of. We obtained one, and if you go by 229 there at the Alliance building, you can see the metal skeleton of the training tower that we got through that grant. Yeah. So
Actually getting ready to build onto it within the next few weeks. We've got it. It was what we called round 2 of it, and that'll should be up within the month. And we done that through the fire department, but we actually made it more of a county-wide mission for all the fire departments so that, it was a neutral location. Everybody could use it. But we've done quite a bit. And like Terry said, we're with the county fire department. I've been the chairman of the board there since 17, and Terry was the chief for 8 years.
8 years, and deputy chief since 2015, I guess.
2015.
Yeah. Right?
No, I can't.
20.
No.
2023. 23.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I'm getting old.
I grown up, like I said, in the county fire department, and then I said it was funny because I was a junior fireman, growing up. I told you that. When I turned 18, my birthday was in June, so I wasn't eligible to be fireman of the year that year because I was only 18 half the year. So the next year, they promoted me to lieutenant. So I've never been eligible to be fireman of the year. I'm like, guys, this was all fun and games.
It's over.
Yeah. So I was in a leadership role from a young age there. And then when Terry got back on the fire department, I think it was in 08.
Yeah.
I was in a leadership role then. When I went to the city fire department, the rescue squad, that was a fun time because I'd always kind of been down the leadership side of things. At this point, it was like I could just take these skills and just be a fireman or a rescue member. And man, that was some fun times.
That's always the funnest part of being on the fire department.
And I do nothing.
I came back and I'd been in a leadership role when I left. That's when Zane died, Zane Kennedy. He died. He was chief and I was assistant chief at that time. And that kind of killed my soul, and I just kind of walked away. And when I came back, I was like, man, this is going to be cool. I can actually be a firefighter. And I had been there 6 months. He was like, hey, you want to take the training officer position? No, not really.
Do I have an option?
No, it wasn't really a question.
Yeah,
It was
it wasn't. So,
funny. I was down at Paris Island after, this is after I've been, I was a Marine and me and my wife went down, on vacation to Savannah and around that area. And we went on, back on base and was checking it out. They had these old guys, these old Marines, the Marine League. And I was like, man, I'm going to go back and find one of them leagues and I'm going to join and just be part of that. Well, I called them up. They were like, Okay, yeah. Do you think you could be the commandant of this? I was like, I just want to be private, dog. I just want to show up, and help out with Toys for Tots or something like that. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, well, we're all really old. I was like, are you kidding me, man? I was like, so. Needless to say, I'm not a member of that league right now. I was just like, I can't take on another responsibility and having to worry about funerals and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm good, man.
It's a lot.
How can I help you?
And like Terry said, once you're in, you never really get out. He'd left for a brief moment after Zane had passed. And then I think of Les. Les was there the whole time, in that course of time when Terry wasn't there. And then our good friend Shane, he's the fire chief now. He's there and involved. Terry's there. I'm there. There's a core group that's like, there was always somebody that kept the ball rolling, so to speak. And there's been a ton of good folks that have went through the agency. It takes that to make it run, but there's always been, somebody within that few people circle that's stayed there. And in the past we'd had, if a chief left or if a deputy chief stepped down, and that was something we didn't pride ourselves in, but we ran so many calls, it was like they were burnt out.
Yeah.
Whereas like Bush or Keevee, a department that was busy, but not as busy, their officers seemed to rotate. Maybe they didn't want to be the chief anymore, but they stayed on. And Terry was able to do that. He took a breath, and Shane got him and Jared as deputy chiefs, and it worked out really well. And I said, man, I'm so excited to see this, because for years it was like, once somebody finally got out of the seat, they were just so burnt that they were done. Not that they were mad at anybody. It was just they had give 110%.
That was me. When I took the chief's position, I said, listen, I'll do this for 5 years. I think that's enough time. I'll do 5 years. And I ended up doing 8, and I should have quit at 5 probably, but I did 8 and kind of stepped away. And Shane took it, and like I'd retired at dispatch, and I took about 6 months. Well, 6 months at home, you start twiddling your thumbs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I need. Shane called and said, "Hey, you think you can get Jared to join the fire department back?" Because he was one of my lieutenants, and he kind of left when I did.
Yeah. And has family ties.
Yeah, has family ties. That's Zane's son, is Jared Kennedy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's the deputy chief. He and I are both deputy chiefs now.
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah. So I think at one point, someday, he may fill that role as well and kind of follow in his dad's footsteps. So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
But so I called Jared and I said, well, what do you think? He said, what do you think? It's one of those back and forth. It's like, well, I'll do it if you'll do it, and so here we are. 2 years later, or 3, or whatever it is, and
when I went on the board, I just bought a house in the district out next to Station 2, and I think Karen Thomas, I think she was on the board at the time, wasn't she?
She may have been. She got on the board
CEO?
for just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The CBO.
Yeah,
she was on there for a short period of time when I first came.
And, Jason McCown and some of them guys was.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I think Steve asked her to come be on it.
Yeah, Karen was there, and we started shaking and baking pretty quick there. Seemed like everything. And we were blessed. We got some key players and reorganized the board a little bit, and it was a really good setup, because it wasn't like the fire department didn't have good structure. Terry was the chief, but we kind of restructured the board and needed to build a fire station, and we sold some property, built some property. We've bought like 9 fire trucks in 8 years, and I say that like. Not that we had that much money. We were trying to improve the fleet. So we would buy something, we'd sell it, we'd buy something and sell it. And people accused us of flipping fire trucks.
Getting in the business of flipping fire trucks.
It wasn't really what we meant to do, but after we looked at it, it's like, maybe we are.
It worked.
But we done a lot of good things. And, I mentioned Les. Les was right there with us.
Les was on the board that whole time.
Yeah, he was right there with us the whole time. And then, obviously with everything that happened through the tornado.
Y'all want to go that route now? I mean, it's up to you guys. I don't want to push that.
No,
that was probably, you've answered a lot of crazy, horrible calls. from both sides of the mic. I mean,
Oh yeah,
from
I've seen
dispatch
everything
side
from officers getting shot at to
to
somebody committing suicide while I was on the phone with them.
yeah.
So
And is there been anything worse that you've experienced than last year?
call volume wise, no. Whenever the tornado happened, I was at home and got up. They paged us, obviously. James Spicer is one of our firefighters. He got on the radio. It had decimated his neighborhood. He lived there where Les did. He lived on closer to 363. He didn't live back up near the church where Les lived at. And his house was damaged, and he came out and, immediately got on the radio and said, London, send me everything you've got. This neighborhood is gone. And it literally was. And so, I get up and I start getting ready, and I'm like, where do I go? Where am I going to be the most use? And I'm like, I'm close to dispatch. I don't even know if I can get to there from where I'm at. I know I can help there. So I went to dispatch and walked in. And as soon as I walked in, Larry and Tyler, which is Larry's the director now, and Tyler's the assistant director, said, we are so glad to see you.
Yeah, I guarantee you.
Sit down.
Well, you've handled so many high risk, just crazy calls.
I was there the
Some
day.
of them I was involved
I worked
in.
in a tornado, went through Carnaby Square.
Yeah, I was in. Well, I was in it. Went up right there, and
And then I'd been down to East Bernstein. I went down to East Bernstein the night of that tornado.
I was in that
I
one.
wasn't at dispatch, but I was down there. So, but yeah, it was call volume wise that night was terrible. And just the radio traffic was, horrible. It's chaotic. It wasn't horrible. We did really well, but it was just chaotic. And you had such a large path of devastation. I took a call from one of the couple back behind the airport, that the ones that lost their arms, the amputees. I took their call. They said, hey, we're in a house, we're in the hallway, we're down, and we're, and Mark, we were talking about Mark Rudder.
yeah, he was. They were
That
our
was our
guest.
last.
Okay,
Yeah,
that was
Mark and Noah.
Mark and Noah,
Yeah.
okay.
So Mark, I called Mark on the phone. I'm like, hey, where are you? Because the radio was just blah,
Yeah.
I called Mark on the phone. He said, well, I'm here by the airport. I said, great. I said, this is what I've got is on that middle meadow lane there on the backside of the airport off Court Road.
Yeah.
I said, hey, this is where they're at. I think they're the fourth because they get out there. There's no mailboxes.
Yeah, you
I
can't
can tell
find
somebody
anything.
it's 1325 Court Road, and they're like, we don't know where that's at, And he ended up going to the hangar where the PHI crew got hit, grabbed them and took them with him, and they went back in that area trying to find that house to get those people out.
Which was a great idea.
Yeah.
Because they were sitting there with nowhere to go. Their stuff was destroyed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he said, man, I went and got the flight crew. I said, that is a great idea.
Yeah, that's genius. I mean,
Yeah.
They
take
know what
them
they're
with you.
doing. Yeah,
And we had people all over. I come from the Station 2 side, the 192 side, and we were really fortunate to have all of the key players within our department that we did that night because, like Terry said, he was available. Deputy Chief Kennedy was available. Shane Lynch, Fire Chief, he was available. And we were all hands on deck. But it's not always like that, depending on people's work schedules. We always have... at our fire department, we have an OIC that is an officer in charge. We refer to it sometimes as designated survivor. That's the one person that's going to answer the radio. Because
No
in the
matter what
volunteer
else,
world.
you got to be
You
there.
answered the radio.
Yeah.
But we had all hands on deck, and that was a lot of good personnel with good training that could step up and answer the call. So
that's what happens when you deal with first responders, baby. The tone's dropping.
Yep.
Yep.
But we were all over, and you couldn't really, I was on the radio, and like where I was at, it had to be the worst because I'm looking at ground zero out off Wine Road in the Sunshine Hills area. But then, Shane's on the radio,
Shane
and
gets
he's
on
like,
the
man,
radio.
it's bad over here. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you don't have any clue what I'm dealing with. Well, when daylight hit and I finally made it to where he was at, like, well, no, he was right. It's just as bad here.
Everything looked the same.
The first thing he come up on was there on Watermelon Drive, which is where the female was in the tree.
Yes.
And so, because he was trying to get to Sunshine Hill from his house, so he went around 1006 and was going to go out 363, and he come up on that first.
I think it's hard to driving it, seeing it, and going out there. You're like, my goodness,
I can.
Yeah.
I don't understand, but straight path pretty much, and you're like, oh, this is. You don't think about
point don't
this
connect to
part.
that
No,
point.
you
Yeah,
don't.
you
Because of the
don't.
way you drive to these things.
Yeah.
Well, this one's way up in the south end of town. Well, it's hitting stuff on the north end of town.
And
You're
the
like,
way
oh.
the storm went, talking with folks, it's like everybody you talk to, well, it was just about a mile away from hitting me. And, well, a lot of people are accurate in that because it went
It was
through one of the
this-
most populated areas in the entire county.
Yeah.
It was in a half mile of my house.
Yeah.
Where I live on Hurley Lane. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just on the south side of the airport. I mean, it could have.
And it was mostly our fire jurisdiction. It hit a little bit in the city and it hit a little bit in Bush, and it got some stuff in Keevee that was mostly woods. There was a few homes. But when you look at jurisdictions for fire departments, we have 11 fire districts in the county. Laurel County Fire Department is just one of those 11. You have Crossroads, Bush, Keevee, Lilly, all the other districts. Well, there's 62,000-ish people in Laurel County. 30 out of those 60 live in our district.
Wow.
So when you think of where should a tornado go, well, that was the worst possible place. It's not good anywhere, but it hit one of the most populated areas in the entire county. And it made things really difficult because obviously we were trying to get people in, and thank you to all of the fire departments that came in to assist us. Every fire department, rolled out quickly, from the other stations here in the county as well as other counties. But Terry and I, going back to you talked about ICS training. This was rolling through our mind immediately. Like, this is the real deal. How are we going to stage these resources? Where are we going to put people? I was talking to you before we went live, about setting up mass casualty at Wine Pine.
Mm-hmm.
I called Shane and said, hey, we need to open Wine Pine. I think that's the most centrally located school. Now, after we done a lot of debriefings and we look back on some of the things that went right, some of the things that went wrong, we could have done a few things different, but you're always going to have that. We can't sit there and beat ourselves up over it.
That's what
You
you
can
want. We learned a
Monday
lot from
quarterback
the
in, yeah.
2012 tornado.
Right.
We learned a lot from that.
Well, I remember talking to you in ICS 300 down there. We was discussing that because it hadn't been maybe a year, maybe after that I had that class. And I think one of the thoughts were, how do you be the incident commander when you're also a victim?
Oh yeah.
And that's thoughts that you're like, maybe it's okay to have
And
somebody else
we had-
relinquish that one and be a victim for a second and get your bearing, and then
We had
'cause you
4
wanna help
families
instead
that
of
were
being-
involved that were firemen. One of
Yeah.
them being Les's.
Tyson.
Um,
Tyson.
Tyson was on
Tyson
the
was
rescue
involved.
squad.
Rescue squad, yeah.
James Spicer, which is a lieutenant for our fire department, and then Wiley Saylor, which is on our fire department, all lived in Sunshine Hill.
yeah.
And then
and I didn't know this till right before we went on, but Chantz is the one that found my aunt, and we were down in the basement at our house, and I didn't do my daughter any good. She's like, "Are we going to be okay?" I was like, "I don't think so. I don't know." I've been downtown London,
Kind of how I felt at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
because you're hearing what's coming, and you're like, "This isn't like." I was scared and worried about the one that hit East Bernstead.
yeah.
I was involved. I was in that when I went up to my mom and dad's, thinking, "Oh, that'll be
Right.
safer," and they live up there, near
Their
the.
house got hit.
That was Danny.
Yeah.
We were a little bit farther. Danny's grandma's.
Yeah.
They
Right there
got
at Old Harris.
yes,
Mhm.
and then
That was the
we were on
heart of
we were down on Norwood Drive, just maybe a quarter mile from as the
Yeah.
crow flies, thinking, "Well, I really made a wise choice coming down here," but I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I thought that was the craziest thing. We lost 5 or 6 people here in Laurel County.
6, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I lived on Morgan Street when the Carnaby Square one went down, and I remember thinking, "Oh
So
my gosh,
you're the key factor.
I made
it.
the move." But
He's the tornado rod.
when Danny Robinson and I went down to my aunt's house, because my cousin was on like Facebook, like, "Somebody get to mom's, and when I went down there, because there was nothing, everything looks fine, and then
Bam.
boom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I go to her house. I can't even find her house. I've been there hundreds and hundreds
that's
of
the
times.
thing. You couldn't. Somebody's house, like they were asking about Les's house, and I'm like, it's right across from the church, and there's nothing.
There's no
Thank
church.
God that we had a good system on our PVA website, because we relied on that heavily to find addresses. And maybe, in the photos on there, if it has a house, it'll show the photo.
Right.
Maybe we could see something in that would show a piece of something to let us know where we were at, because there was a lot of times that's the only way that we knew where we were at. But yeah, I got to your aunt's house, and I was telling Travis, we didn't know if anybody was in there or not. We'd actually went to the house behind hers, and then just happened to do a quick search there because nobody had hit that house yet. And when we found her, and she and I became pretty good friends since then. She's been at the center over here when they've given out items to tornado victims, but it was a lot to take in. And I was at the 2012 tornado also. I drove one of the first in ambulances, and I remember driving down North 25, and it was pitch black. And I thought, man, I remember thinking this is a pretty historic moment for Laurel County. I may never be involved in something like this ever again. I had no idea, what this would be like.
It's hard to fathom how dark is. We live in such a society where there's light that when it's dark, it's dark.
Yeah.
And I saw that in East Bernstein, and I saw it out there that night. When I left dispatch about 4 and headed to the incident command post, which was Lion Pine Grove, which by that time we knew that Les had been killed. And, you talk about being a victim. Well, at that point, we all
took a
became
gut
a
punch.
victim.
Yeah.
Because I grew up with Les. We graduated high school together. We joined the fire service together. We'd been through, everything together. And
there was nothing at the fire department, even the day before or that night. He was messaging with us that night, 10 minutes before it hit. It wasn't like he's still on the roster. Les was involved.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was leaving. He'd left his house to go to the call. We'd gotten a fire. Our first initial kind of contact was a fire alarm came out in his neighborhood.
6 houses down.
6 houses down. And I think somebody said the last thing Michelle kind of remembers was he was leaving the house to go to that. She remembered hearing the tone go off, like it went off here. And his truck, they found it with the keys in it in his yard but it had been rolled over and it was up against a tree. And and his house was completely obliterated. It was over in the field, like it wasn't even there.
No, I'd never seen any devastation like that. Like I was, at my Aunt Martha's house, I was looking like it's like the subflooring off this, and blew. She was behind in her closet, in a bathroom behind the garage. The car was still sitting there, maybe shifted a couple inches. And I'm like, behind there's 4 or 5 cars in ponds. And you're like,
yeah.
Cars in houses. There was a car ended up in a house, on the backside of the church.
I just, you see these big things in Oklahoma, and even you're like, what? We got too many mountains. What in the world?
Yeah, what
and
happened?
It was maybe because I remember stepping, the storm that came before blew a big tree down across my power line. It was so there was no electric all over London, and I was charging my phone in my wife's car. And they start giving the warnings out, and I remember the eeriness and the stillness and the quiet, and there were still construction crews working on that down power line, and I'm like, man, this is eerie. This is one of the spookiest. You're like, it just, I don't know. I was just like, uh-oh, and you just felt it. It must have just been like, uh-oh.
So they talk about that calm before the storm. It's almost a real thing. I mean, you get that eerie, quiet feeling.
We were very fortunate. We called for state resources within 20 minutes of getting paged because we realized the severity of the damage that we were dealing with, and we were going to need help. Once we took a breath to kind of get a game plan of how we were going to move forward once daylight hit. And I've said this a lot of times, but we had found every survivor before they went in to do a secondary search anywhere in the impacted area. Now, we had a feeling that maybe we missed something somewhere because the devastation was so broad that we didn't know. We had done the best we could do. And I'm not just saying that for the Laurel County Fire Department. All the fire departments, the rescue squad, any first responder, they had busted their butt out there. But when they went back to do a secondary search, I believe
They recovered one.
I think there was one that was
recovered one,
deceased.
But we knew that it was there. We just couldn't get. We didn't have the resources
Right.
to get them out.
But for all of your local responders to have done that good of a search, and a lot of it wasn't really, I won't call it coordinated. I mean, it wasn't any disrespect to anybody because I was a part of it as well. It was, and I've compared it a lot to this, it was like The Walking Dead, walking down these streets and people yelling
Walking out.
and needing help. Dispatch would give you something, but I wouldn't pay no attention to that. I mean, I'm in the middle of ground zero, people just yelling, needing help, wanting something. And, but once daylight hit, to know that all these folks, it goes back to, what we do, training firefighters. I won't say that we had a direct impact on every person, that was there, but at some point, I would like to think what we've done over the course of many years in training people, it's, you never really know how good you do until something happens. And hopefully that has helped.
It's amazing to me, really, that you go through these classes, these ICS classes, these repetitive, like, oh my, and then all of a sudden you think you forget it until you're needing it. And then that stuff kicks in like it's like,
does.
I know what to do, or here's what we got to do, or I know this guy's here and this, it's amazing, really. And you're like, I don't remember learning that.
Yeah.
But it kicks in. And it should be like that.
It's kind of like
it should be
Chantz said,
natural.
staging and setting up a staging area. We had ambulances staged at Lowe's for the longest period of time because we didn't know who we were going to find or how many we were going to need. And, versus, and even with that, we still got very clogged up with vehicles out there to the point that, you couldn't hardly move.
Yeah, that was the outpour and the amount of first responders that when I got down there at like 233 down to on 363, we were just clogging up. Me and Danny then turned around and went back, the other way and looking around and seeing what we can do to help, like on wine and stuff like that. And but it was not just Laurel County folks that were already there. And that was
people
what was
from
amazing.
everywhere. They rolled
it
out.
was what,
Whitley and
that happened
Dawson.
at like 11:59ish, I think, somewhere in that time frame. And by like 4 or 5 o'clock, we had people from Lexington Fire and
Anchorage, Middletown,
Georgetown.
That's awesome.
Emergency management was here. They kind of set up a real quick IMT, the incident management team, and actually coordinated that secondary search after we'd done the preliminary stuff, and that's when they went back and recovered the one person. But they came back and were like, "Y'all did a really good job. I mean, there's nobody else out there."
And sadly, I'm sure that a lot of those folks learned a lot from the Western Kentucky tornado. That you learn from tragedy and experience, and it helps, but it sure.
You can definitely educate,
hurts.
but experience is the only true. When you put it to the test, that's when you really find out what you know and what you don't know.
And it was kind of odd, once we had realized that Les didn't make it, like Terry said, that was a pretty big gut punch to all of us, especially Laurel County Fire Department in general, because that was, he's one of ours. He's been there. There was only a few guys there longer than me at this point, which is sad to say, but Les had been there the whole time.
We both joined in 1986, so it'd have been 40 years in July. He would have been there.
It's always difficult to lose one of your own.
Well, just realizing when he was missing, because we hadn't been in it long, and we was like, "Why have we not heard from him?" We knew he was on the radio, beforehand.
And everything happened so quick. He had been messaging with us, and we knew that it had hit a part of his subdivision. But you knew less. And just, this was what was going through my head. And the whole time, when it originally happened, I assumed he probably had lost his radio through the mess, and he's there in his neighborhood seeing what's going on,
helping
and
people.
he's waiting on us. We'll be there in a minute. And I was on Wine Road. Actually, I was at your aunt's house. I was going to, because I was in my POV, and I was going to get in the fire truck to move it. And Les's son Evan come up to me. He said, "Chance, have you heard from Dad?" And I thought, well, no, I've not, but I'm sure he's over there, Evan. Let me yell at him. No biggie. And I got on the radio. I said 206, and nothing. Still didn't think much of it. I may have yelled at you at some point and said, "Hey, can you get somebody to go check on Les? I'm going to try to get her turned around." And that was going to be my priority at that point. And I tried to reassure Evan, like, "Hey, I'm sure he's fine." And at that time, I thought he was, deep down. But after I yelled at Terry and he was trying to get some folks to him, and I started making my way, I just got a bad feeling. And never in a million years would have thought that was going to be the outcome. But
well, we go through so much, and you all see so much, and we see the outcome of so much, and you're always okay on the end of it.
Yeah.
That's never the thought that you have on. You never think that this is going to be the one, or this. That's never the thought that goes through your head.
And we knew we were going to need help. Not just for the storm, but just for our fire department because of what had happened. So we talked with Shane, the fire chief, said, "Hey, you may want to get us some help." So daylight hit. They sent some people out to do a secondary search. I'll never forget. We're at the school. We'd send all our other guys home, like go get a shower, clean up, get something in your belly.
Take a nap,
we're gonna
whatever.
We'll talk here in a bit. Just take you a deep breath. And there was me and Terry and Shane and Jared. And we're standing there looking at each other. It's like, all right, y'all go on home. Well, no, you go home. Well, no, you go home. So what do we do for the next 5 or 6 hours? We sat there looking at each other. We knew people needed a break, but obviously we thought we were too good to get a break. But at the same time, I think we were too invested. We needed to take a breath of fresh air, but it wasn't right then.
If I had stopped, it would have hit me what had occurred.
Yeah.
As long as I was working and doing something, I could put that on the back burner that he'd been killed.
Yeah.
That's people like within the next few days, I got interviewed several times. Somehow I ended up being the PIO for the fire department and got on Fox News and all kinds of different things. Well, how are y'all doing? And my answer would be, we're surviving. We're not okay.
Yeah.
But we're surviving. And that's basically, we were in survival mode and you all have been there. When you get into that adrenaline rush and when the adrenaline goes away, is when that deep hurt comes. As long as I was working and pushing myself to do something, the next thing, I didn't have to face that.
And we utilized all our resources. Jeff Hilton is the vice chairman of our board. So we immediately, or I don't know if we called him or he called us. We talked quite a bit, but he immediately started checking on Michelle because she was obviously in the hospital and started trying to help Evan. And then would tell us what we needed to do because we were still trying to deal with some of the response as well. And it was like, do we take time off and let other people handle this? Which originally we thought maybe that was the best plan because going through some of this mental health stuff, we hear of that. But after daylight hit, and again, we were all just kind of standing there looking at each other. It's like,
let's go to work.
These are our people. Yeah, and
that's
year,
that's what Les would have wanted you to go
and
work.
He would have. I mean, he would have 100%. And I said, every year these folks have, donated to our volunteer fire department, and this is the one time they need us. We're not going to shut it off. And that's what we did. We went to work. And that was on, Saturday morning. Les's funeral was not until the following Monday, which was about 9 days later. After his funeral, we did, for the first time in our agency's history, we had another fire department, a group of fire departments out of, was it PRP
and Shepherdsville, I think, were the two.
Out of the Louisville area. They came in and they covered for us.
And for 24 hours, we went offline.
So the fire department doors were open. They were answering calls for us, but we did give our guys just a breather because, but even then it was so funny because we had attended Les's funeral. We had had a meal with the family, and that evening it's like, all right, guys, everybody take a breather. And so I went home, went by the station, Station 2. We had people at both stations, and checked on them, and went home, come back out to do something, and couple of the members are there at the station. So I pull in. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Just checking on these guys. I said, this is why they're here, is so we can take a break. Y'all need to go home. It's like, well, you do too. Good point. So it was like,
It's tough.
nobody really wanted to leave. I think people really needed to be together. And so we kind of embraced that and took it as it came. But it was a big deal. It still is a big deal. People still talk about it. They're going to talk about it for years to come.
And there were just so many people that were just willing to help. That was one of the things that, and Chantz, giving credit to him, contacted Fire Department Coffee, and I would have never thought to do that.
Yeah.
Here they come with their big rescue truck, and they're serving coffee to us and the people in the area that's affected. They're going to different agencies, and just all of that was donated. They didn't get a dime for that.
Yeah.
For coming
It was great. That
I was
happened.
amazed with the amount of good, just good folks.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It was incredible. I had been to a fire department conference at the IC. It's a big conference they have once a year in Indianapolis. I'd been there in April, and I saw what they call Rescue One, which was the fire department coffee truck. And when this happened, I remembered that because I remember seeing that truck, and I thought, man, that's pretty cool. I love coffee. I'd love to have a coffee fire truck.
Yeah. Let's put a coffee pot on the fire truck,
When that happened, and I've told fire department coffee this, so I'll say this without trying to, campaign for somebody else. When all that happened, I was so busy. My wife's like, what can I do to help you? And I'm like, you know what? I know what I need. Call Black Rifle Coffee and tell them I need that fire truck down here. Well, I didn't realize what I'd said. So that went on for like 24 hours. I'm like, hey, honey, did you ever hear back from them? She said, no. I'm like, well, let me try. And I'm like searching it, and she's looking at my phone. She said, you told me to call Black Rifle Coffee. I said, no, I said Fire Department Coffee. She said, no, that's not what you told me. And I was like, well, that's probably the problem.
No wonder you didn't hear.
So I called them, and I've actually got the voicemail that I'd left them because I got a answer machine, and I'm like, hey, here's who I am. Here's who I'm with. Here's what's happened. I need you guys to come. And the next day they had called back, and my phone, and Terry knows, our phones were just blown up. I mean, you couldn't even answer the calls. And I missed their call, and they left a message, and they're like, hey, I know you're busy. No need to call us back, but I want to let you know that we got wheels moving, and we'll be there in about 6 hours. I called them on like a Sunday night, and this was Monday, and I figured they would stay a few days. That's kind of what I'd asked for, just to be there for the fire department and the community. And you had workers just everywhere. Trying to help.
You had Praxel, you had all the great people in Laurel County, not giving anybody any credit more than anybody else, but
they were everywhere.
They were just everywhere, just helping clean up and do all that
and
stuff.
I thought, man, what better than to, have these people drive this fire truck down, take them some coffee. But they stayed for like 9 days.
Yeah, they didn't leave till it was the day after Les's funeral.
Yeah. Wow.
It was incredible.
That's awesome.
And, but, you talk about all the good people. We knew, again, through ICS training and through the 2012 tornado specifically, about stuff. People are going to bring stuff, and you need to have somebody over the stuff and have a plan. So we knew that. It was a little more emotional on our end because, like we had said, I think we felt a little more connected. These are our people, so to speak.
Yeah,
and
the biggest affected area probably was our jurisdiction. When you look at it overall, I think Sublimity and Sunshine Hills and all that area, you had it touch the city, probably briefly 20%. Not to downplay that by any means. There was devastation everywhere.
We had people reaching out to the fire department. The fire department's phone goes to the chief's cell phone, which he's out of town this week on a trip, and one of the officers are covering that. And he said, man, I've not given you enough respect for answering this phone 24/7 because we're not staffed, 24/7. We're volunteers, so it goes straight to his phone. Well, after the tornado, there was people calling like, hey, we're bringing stuff. It's like, well, I don't know what we need. Well, it don't matter. We've got it loaded up. We're coming. And we had to have a plan. And at the time, we wanted to utilize the county's donation center that they were setting up. But there was a few times in the midst of us just being out doing things and some people at the station that we'd go back and there's stuff just sitting there. It's like, where did this come from? Well, somebody brought it. Yeah. So we made the decision to have maybe what we would call a substation of a donation center, just to help people out that are right there. And then we'd send all the big stuff into the county. But like one of the things right out of the gate, Jerry Raines, who's the EM director, he said, "Hey, what do you guys need?" And I said, "We have got bottled water enough to float the Titanic, but we've got workers going in and out of here that they need water, but they don't have any ice." I thought they would bring us like a little 16-foot ice trailer. They brought a semi.
Yeah.
And
that's what they do.
We're like, well, that's enough. What are we going to do with it? But
it's a reefer. It's a reefer. Yeah. I mean, it sit there and stay cold the whole time.
So we went into recovery mode pretty quickly, and we had guys, the firemen, going around to these sites where they were helping these homes get cleaned up and taking them water and shovels and just things that you didn't think of. We had a really hard time with cell phones coverage out there because of everything being down. They sent us I thought they'd send us like a little tower or something. They sent a truck that looked like something you'd see on a NASCAR track or something with a big antenna. Yeah. And I've told people, I said, that little station that you pass by and don't really think much of, it become like the center of everything, as well as Hart Baptist Church. Hart Baptist Church was doing quite a bit, and all the churches. And like Terry said, I don't want to go down that list and try to name everybody because we'll miss somebody. It was amazing. But one other little key that I will throw in there is Ryan Hall, y'all. You mentioned you was watching that.
He was saving his son.
Man, he was. I was watching it. Shane, the fire chief, he called me a day or two after everything happened. He said, "Hey, Ryan Hall, y'all called." And I was kind of heading up the station donation center, I guess you'd call it. He said, "He's got some stuff. You want to deal with it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, give me his number." So they come and they, I didn't know they'd done like a nonprofit donation thing.
I didn't know until they came.
Yeah.
And I'm such a huge fan of him. And I'm like,
they come in this big purple box truck, y'all, Ryan Hall, y'all. And like, man, so they brought gas cans and bedding, water, all kinds of stuff. But outside of that, Dalton, that was representing them, he said, "Hey, would you care to give us a little interview?" And I'm looking around like, where's Terry? He's handling all these interviews. I don't want to be the interview guy. Yeah. Well, Terry was obviously at the EOC doing an interview, and he's here looking at me. I'm like, well, sure. And I'm like dirty. I've been down in the dirt doing something. I said, I ain't really dressed for this. He said, no, just hop in the car and we'll drive around. I said, okay, cool. We'll do that. So we did. And he's asking me a little bit about what happened. And I was showing him some places, and not a big deal. So that went on that day. The next day, he's calling. I'm busy again. And Dalton, if you're listening to this, we finally ended up meeting up and getting all this worked out that evening. He said, can I meet with some of your firemen? I said, yeah, no problem. So again, I go meet with the firemen. We were actually having a SIDS debriefing, critical incident stress debriefing with the members that had encountered a lot, including Les. So there's some stuff going on at Station 2. Well, all our members are at Station 1. And I'm like, I got to get back out there. People's needing stuff. And I think Terry was there. I said, Terry, if you'll handle this, I'll go back out there with them. So Dalton pulls in and said, hey, care if I talk with you? I said, yeah, Deputy Chief Wattenbargar's in there. He knows you're coming. He said, no, I'd really like you to be here too. I'm like, brother, I appreciate it, but I've got a lot going on. We're dividing and conquering. And he said, well, can I tell you something? And you won't say anything to the other guys till I talk to them? And I said, well, yeah, what's up? He said, we want to donate $50,000. And I'm like, I think I need to stay for this. So he's like, no, you do what you got to do. I'm like, you can't tell me that and expect me just to drive down the road. I mean, so he donated $11,000 directly to Les Leatherman's family, the Ryan Hall y'all and the y'all squad.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And then $39,000 to the fire department. And that was $1,000 for each year that Les was a member of the fire department, which was, that was a pretty big deal. And even thinking of it now, you kind of get emotional. So thankfully, by that point, I gave Boog the mic and he got back in front of the camera because I wasn't in any shape to speak.
And it gets tough. I mean, that's, when I was even like doing the interview, I did the interview for Fox News from the EOC because I was knee deep in it and had to take the time out to go and do the interview. And, and you start talking about that and it's fresh on your mind, then, we're kind of separated from it now. Grief gets easier. It never goes away, but it does get easier. But, and here you're trying to talk about your best friend being killed and not crack up or, break up. And, we're men's men. We can't show emotion. We're not supposed to. I
Not
do all
live
the time.
No.
I do all the time.
Fox
Man.
News.
Yeah, not live on Fox News. So,
Look at that baby.
right.
No, that's what you feel.
Yeah,
but really,
100%, and
I've gave that hard interview, and there's
absolutely.
it's gut wrenching, and you're just trying to keep it together. And I'm like, I didn't. My interview was luckily Scotty Pennington. Is that?
Yeah.
He did most of the talk, and I gave just a brief.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
You've been there,
Oh, it is
terrible.
Terrible. It is terrible. Not to mention he was your best friend. So I couldn't even. That goes in a different direction altogether. So I don't know.
And to know less, when you have someone that dies in the line of duty, everyone makes a big deal about that because that was a big deal, and they should. But to know less, the whole time we're having to plan things, and people are bringing things, and they're saying all this good stuff about Les, which was well deserved.
Oh yeah,
we could just imagine Les because we knew him. He would have been like, "What in the world is this?"
When they asked me to say something at his funeral, they said, "You care to speak?" And I was like, but what do you do? It's an honor and a privilege to do so, but you're like, I don't know if I can do that or not. And like one of the first, I said, he would absolutely hate this.
Oh, he would.
I said he would be the first one to say, "What are you all doing?"
You mean these people took off work to come to this?
Yeah.
I mean, I could hear it. Like, that was Les.
He was as humble could get. And you just, just to know him, you would know what he was thinking. So
I'm hoping this podcast reaches, not with your all's help, but I would like to, if you can and want to, hear a little bit about who he was. And I know that's tough. But I think people get this, the generations I hopefully will know.
Yeah.
And maybe we can record what your all's thoughts and who he is as a person, as a dispatcher, and as a firefighter, as a human, as a father, as a husband.
No, you couldn't beat him. I mean, Les and I first kind of came together probably in the early 80s. We were in high school. We were in the same age, same grade. His birthday was just last week. His birthday would have been March 27th. And he'd been 40. I'm sorry. He'd been 58. Making him young. I turned 58 in December. So for that time frame, I always called him older than me.
He's the old man.
He's the old man.
Brother,
and he would call me and say, when I caught up, "Hi, you're old man now." So I talked to Les probably once a week, my entire life, adult life, from high school on. We were best friends, and there was three of us. It was me, him, and Jonathan Gooden. A lot of people don't remember Jonathan. Jonathan's been dead for a little while, but he was Jonathan's dad owned what was he managed the Fearless Flick.
Oh,
if you remember the Fearless
Mm-hmm.
Flick in Carnaby Square, Jonathan's dad managed the Fearless Flick. Well, Jonathan worked there, and so Les and I would
That
always
one theater, right?
yeah, one theater. We'd always hang out with Jonathan at the Fearless Flick, and he was cleaner, he was janitor and all that. So, and at that time, that's when everybody circled Carnaby Square, which is where it was. That was the big hangout spot. That was the if you wanted to get together, you went to the Carnaby Square and you hung out. And we always thought we had the best of both worlds because we could hang out and watch everybody ride around. And then after the movie, we'd go in and clean the movie theater up, and then we'd play laser tag in the dark. The three of us, we thought, man, we're the bee's knees. We got it going on.
We are.
Look how cool we are. And so out of high school, Les and I graduated in 86. Jonathan graduated in 87, I believe. in that time frame, we joined the city fire department. We walked in. Gilmore Phelps was the chief then, and Wilson was, I think, assistant chief or something like that. And Danny Spurlock,
RD.
somebody might remember that name. He worked at the city fire department then as the full-time guy. I think he mostly did cleaning and stuff like that, but he answered calls during the day. He worked 8 to 5.
He liked the bill.
Yeah. We would go down there. We decided we wanted to join the fire department. So we went to the city fire department because that's just what we knew. We went down there and we joined and kind of got in and started doing all the stuff that firemen do. And we're like, I thought I was coming here to get out of trouble. This is where everything's happening at.
I'm learning this about this all over firefighter.
This is where all the trouble's at. So Chantz mentioned the bell. The city fire truck had a bell on the front of it, and there was a cord inside, and you pulled the cord and it rung the bell. Danny absolutely hated that bell, hated the bell. And every time one of us got in the front seat, me or Jonathan or Les, we'd ring that freaking bell going down the road. So we joined the city fire department. We were there for probably, 2 or 3 months, and the county fire department had a big fire out on 472. You know where the kudzu patch is, what they call the kudzu patch. The kudzu patch caught on fire. And they started hollering for help and said, it's running up the mountain on us. We need some additional people. And Danny was on the county at that time. He said, hey, run out there and help him, boys. So we went out there and we went to work, and they's like, where'd y'all come from? We was like, Danny sent us out here. We're on the city fire department. They said, all right. Now you're on the county fire department. Drills Monday nights. Come on down. So that's how we kind of ended up at the county fire department, and we stayed there, our entire career for the most part. We left for a little while. I did when Zane died, and Les left for just a minute and went to Lilly, but he got dropped back real fast. And we were always together during that time period. They ended up calling us the Beastie Boys. That was our nickname. Me and Jonathan and Les, they called because they said, just set them free and go in there and they'll tear it up.
That's the Beastie Boys. Most popular.
That was popular back then. The whole no rest of Brooklyn and all that.
Yeah.
Fight for your right.
Fight for your right to party. It was like, y'all are the Beastie Boys. Danny always liked going down to Chinatown and eating the buffet. We were all 4 big boys. They walk in, they start fixing extra food in the back. These boys are going to destroy this place. So
I miss that place.
I do too.
And we just kind of went from there. We fought some pretty big fires. The S&T hardware store and the old Martin Cup, the furniture place, the Martin Cup. There's a funny story there. Wilson, we were on the backside on Hill Street, North Hill, and we had one of our engines sitting back there, and Wilson sent me and another guy in the back. They'd been trying to fight it all day, and Wilson said, go in there and put that fire out. So me and this other guy, we make entry, and we go in the back door. Well, Les is at the back door when we go in. And we get back in there, and I kind of turn around. Well, that guy's gone. No, I don't know where he went. And so I'm right now getting to the scene of the fire, getting ready to put water on the fire. I open the nozzle, and by the time I open the nozzle, something just runs me flat down. Just runs over me, and it's Les. That guy had come back out, got too hot, SCBA messed up, whatever. And Les was like, where's Boog? I don't know. Well, he followed that hose and was coming to find me. He thought I was lost in there. And it was so dark he couldn't see me. So when he got to me, he just run me down. He just climbed right in the back of me. So we ended up staying all night there. We put the fire out, and then they ended up asking us to stay for fire watch. So about 6 o'clock the next morning, Martin Cup come in there, and we was all sleeping in beds. So you boys watched real well, didn't you? Well, we fought fire all day. We was tired.
This look comfortable.
These are comfortable.
This was just right.
Yeah. So we all piled up in one of them beds and sacked out. But no, you just couldn't beat him. That's just an example.
Did y'all start dispatching about the same time too?
I did. I started in 92 and he started in the spring, like early 93. It was within just 3 to 6 months. We had applied at the same time and I
At
just
Laurel.
at Laurel.
Yeah.
And I just happened to get hired before he did. And then just within 6 months, he was hired. And then I don't remember how long he stayed before he went to KSP, but it was a significant amount of time.
He was there doing more part-time stuff coming in and out. I think he was already at Post when I came around.
Right.
But that's where I got to know him, was dispatching up there on night shift or whatever if he was around. And my favorite, I mean, just he cracked me up when he went to work for the Legacy over here, man. Oh my
KSP,
gosh.
yeah.
He always had some kind of, it just cracked you
Oh,
up.
yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know he worked there. I walked and checked the alarm or something, went in there and, I was like, oh my gosh. If I'd known he was here, I would have never came.
Yeah.
That's it.
Man, when I was a kid and he was at, again, when he was on TLC Lane, he would come up a lot during the day. I'd be up there during the day in the summer, because I was out of school. But I just hoped that somebody would come by if we had a call and grab a truck. If they went to the other station, man, I thought my life was ending. I'm just stuck here. I can't do nothing. I couldn't even drive at the time. But he would come up during the day, and I always got excited if anybody came, because then we was ready to go on a call if we had something. We'd have a call, and he'd be like, go get the truck started. All right, I'll be there. I'm down there like 0.2 seconds waiting, just waiting. And here comes Les, and I'm like, you want me to tell him we're en route? He's like, yeah. All right. So I got to talk on the radio. Like, that's a big deal. And we'd turn out, and here he'd go, he wasn't getting fast. He's like, I hope we get canceled. And I remember thinking, like, man, why don't this guy like this stuff? And I'd go turn the siren on. Turn that off. I said, we don't want to hear that. And I think back to that now. That's me now. Yeah. Like, I don't, like, I pulled up on scene or something the other night, and the guy was like, you didn't even have your red lights on. I'm like, do you see any traffic? I don't think I need them. But looking back, it's like, I've turned into that guy. Like, I get it now.
Become a curmudgeon on the fire.
Yeah.
I mean, at certain points, it's just like,
I
remember that though. Like, I couldn't wait to have something. Yeah. We had a house fire one time up on North Hill Street, or no, the street that used to run behind Kennedy's garage.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name.
Reuben.
Of it. Yeah, Reuben. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan had made entry.
You won't pass the city cops, buddy.
Jonathan. I mean, we were so excited. Jonathan made entry, and he was in this room. And me and Les were at the window and looking at him, looking from the outside, looking in. Well, Jonathan had closed the door, and there was a mirror on the back of the door, and he's trying to find his way out, and he'd see that mirror, and he thought that was, and he kept hitting the door, and it was funny. Because it was closed. He thought he was going, and he'd hit it. He thought he couldn't figure out how to get out of that room.
We had a fire on Delbert Hodge one night, a long time ago, and we couldn't find it. And I pulled off there at 30 in Delbert Hodge. I was in a fire truck, and guys were kind of staging behind me, waiting. Finally, somebody goes up in there like, oh, we found it. It's an old outbuilding on fire. You need to come up here and take this driveway. So, all right. And I pull on Delbert Hodge, and I felt something. I thought, man, I must have rubbed that guardrail with that tire. And I get up there, and some of the guys were there, but Les and John Blanton, he had come in his POV, and neither one of them come down there. And I'm again, young officer trying to handle this, and I get on the radio. I'm like, where'd y'all go? And Les gets on the radio. Oh, you'll find out. I'm like, what did that mean? That was weird. Why do you say that? I said, are y'all coming down to the fire? He said, it'd probably be better if we didn't. I said, well, that was weird. So come to find out, that little bump that I felt was the bumper of John Blanton's car. he had parked between me and the guardrail, and I didn't know it. So I did have enough clearance until he parked there. He was in a black car, so Les was just being funny because John was mad at the world. He's out there trying to get his Awzall, and you cut the rest of his bumper off. And to this day, I stand behind my statement like, what were you doing parking in between the fire truck and the guardrail? Like, you're trying to save me. I'm like, it was dark. I couldn't see nothing. But yeah,
it goes from 0 to 100.
Just a good thing it wasn't his Porsche.
Yeah. But I'm like, why don't y'all come up here? And Les just like, oh, it's probably a good thing. You'll find out. And I'm like, why is he being weird about it? When we get back, and he's just sitting there smiling. We had a bad wreck out in front of Cold Hill just November before the the tornado. So that'd been November of 24, I believe. There was a real bad wreck, and somebody had come in by the station and said, "Hey, there's a bad wreck out here." And one of the guys, they'd been on another call, they called me. And I thought, I'll run up here and check it. And I get out there, and it was a really bad wreck that hadn't been paged out. So I'm on the radio like, "Hey, send everybody. We've got people trapped everywhere. We need help." And so I get out there, and Les lived in Sunshine Hills, and the guys were rolling to me. And before I knew it, I had the door off this car, and we were doing our thing. I look around, and Les was there really quick. And at this point in his career, we always laughed with Les because he didn't get in a hurry. It didn't matter if the sky was falling.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'll be there when I get there. Y'all just don't worry about it. And I look around, and I guess I don't think I get excited on the radio, but at that moment by myself, I guess I was a little more excited than what I normally am. So I looked around and said, "What in the world are you doing here so quick?" He just looked at me and said, "I just want to see if it's as bad as you was acting like it was." And I looked at him like, "Really?" And he just kind of smiled, like he was there because he knew I needed help.
Yeah.
And he was there quick, but he wasn't going to say that. He was just looking at me. He's like, "I just want to see if it's as bad as you act like it was."
Chill out on the radio, bud.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing like getting amped up on the radio. Good Lord.
You talked about John Blanton, Fuzz. Greg Green's retired.
Oh, he's,
You know,
yeah.
And,
He's been on.
Yeah, and I made a comment on his congratulating him and stuff, and I said, "There's never nothing like hearing Fuzz holler to dispatch say, 'London, can 1118 come out in the county and take a call?'" He's the only sheriff that's ever signed to the city limits. And John Blanton got madder.
Back in the day, the city and the sheriff's office, probably when you started, they was on the same channel.
Yeah.
That was right after
Yeah.
I started.
Yeah.
So
right after.
they were on the same
Oh, yeah.
channel all the
John
time.
would stay in the city a lot. You
Hey,
know,
that's where he started,
Yeah, that's
buddy.
where he started. He'd stay in the city. And Fuzz got on the radio one night, and he was busy out in the county. He said, "You know, can 1118 come out in the county and take a call?"
Funny.
So, and John got, "Fuzz, gosh dang."
I could.
I bet them two was like Enos and
Oh,
Roscoe.
it was horrible. They like oil and water. Fuzz do anything he could to get under John's skin.
That's hilarious. I can see.
Yeah. Oh.
Man, Fuzz throwing that car chase that me and Doug Thomas was in, and he was doing an inspection on a truck. When we went by, all I saw was papers thrown up there. He was jumping. I was like, "Golly, well, we got help."
Yeah.
Here he comes. So it was funny.
No, we did a little. Me and Les transported there for a little bit for the SO. We went to, we was working dispatch, and
Yeah.
Gene was sheriff then, and that's how me and Fuzz came to the fire department, and then he ended up going to the SO as I guess at then would have been a bailiff or whatever, and a transporter. And we and him, I'll tell, when we went to, I think it was Pee Wee Valley one time, and we took a Spire Cruiser up there. Well, I had never been to a real jail, a prison or a penitentiary. We pull in, and they're like, "All right, y'all have any weapons?" "Well, yeah. Well, we need them." They confiscate everything,
Yeah.
everything at the
Yeah.
gate, So you got any extra? Yeah. Well, we need those too. We don't want you taking any bullets in there. Is that all you got? Well, yeah, I think that's all we got. Well, pop the trunk. Well, we were in a Spire. We didn't know what was back in the trunk. There's like shotguns and AR, in the trunk of this
Loads of
cruiser,
Well,
You never know. Never know.
Me and folks look at each other like, "What the hell?" So,
There's where I put that dead
I
body.
mean, I rolled around with 4 grams of meth in my cruiser at the academy for the first 2 weeks
Oh, my
till it
God.
came unlodged out of the back seat.
they called me and Snez Les. That was his nickname, Snez. They called me and Snez one night and said, "Hey, we need to take one to ARH." Okay. We roll up down at the SO, get out, and walk in, and say, "Okay, what we got?" I said, "Well, you'll see when we get him out there." They bring this guy out, Jay Bird, naked. I mean, he's as naked gets, and he was Jesus. He's naked Jesus. He thought he was Jesus.
You'd be surprised
Yeah.
how often
Come
that
on.
happens.
Yeah.
A lot of-
And, they loaded him up in the back of that cruiser, and they looked at me and Les said, "Y'all have fun." So here we go to ARH and with naked Jesus. So,
That's what. That's a good hour.
Oh yeah, it's an hour over and an hour back, and that guy was all right. I was
Y'all get
leaving
around
at
with the Lord on
yeah,
that
yeah.
Man.
A couple Thanksgivings ago, we had a wreck on the interstate, and I wasn't going. I was way out 229 with the family, but I was listening, and Les actually, that's when he still lived on Bill George over next to Station 1. And I heard him, I'm in route station. He gets over there, and I hear him put the truck in route, and all of a sudden he's calling me. I thought, man, what's going on? That's weird. I'm not even on the radio. I'm not active on this call. I'm just listening. I answered. He said, I'm going to need you to get up here. I said, what's going on? He said, I think I just blew 23 apart. I said, what do you mean? He said, I don't know. And then he's talking to me. He said, I'm bleeding. What? I'm thinking, what do you mean you're bleeding? What did you do? And he said, I don't know. I'm trying to get the cab up, and I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I'm
So
working.
23s.
It was
Yeah,
fire.
yeah,
It was
it's a
fire.
fire
I
engine.
blew
Yeah.
23 apart, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, I don't know, but I'm bleeding. I'm like, "What?" Well, he had got in it, and come to find out, our batteries had overcharged. And when I guess they'd been charging for a few days. We hadn't had a call, and when he turned the power on. When he went to hit start to start the truck, it literally blew the batteries apart,
batteries
like
blew
blew
up.
through the
God.
cab.
The batteries blew up.
He had,
Oh, my gosh.
he had little pieces like where it
Shrapnel?
nicked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'm on my way. And anyway, they ended up getting another truck. But I get up there, and sure enough, he's got his arm bandaged. He's sitting in the chair over there, and he's got the cab up. And I said, man, what's going on? He just pointed. And I looked, and sure enough, them batteries are just blew all to pieces. And this is on Thanksgiving Day. I'm like, man, I don't even know where we're going to get batteries. I don't know how this happened. I said, what do you think happened? He said, they blew up. I know that. He said, that's all I know. I ain't a mechanic. I said, I ain't neither. I said, and Les is on the board with us. I said, well, man, it's Thanksgiving Day. What do you think we should do? He said, probably get new ones. I'm like, I know that. I'm like, what are we going to do today? He said, I don't know that part. But like, he just sitting over there like, man, I went to take the truck and it blew up. What do you want me to do?
He had the answer.
It's just simple. It blew up.
I'm like, man, what do you think we should do? Just because nobody's open.
Don't overthink it.
We should probably get some new ones. Well, that was next on the list, but that was just him, man. He was funny.
Yeah, it's great.
Chantz talks about when I first came back, they'd changed things a lot from when I left to when I came back.
We got trucks instead of horses.
Yeah. The steam engines that went out of, but they had the car, what they call the car, 2101, the Crown Vic that had been the PDs, so it had got ragged out before it got to the fire department. We just added to it, and we had somebody then that manned the car, and that's when they first started doing rescue, and they had the tools in the trunk of the car. Well, that's a couple 100 pounds sitting in the back of a Crown Vic.
More than what needed to be there.
Yeah, I'm sure, so
Springs don't like that.
it was my turn. So, and I hadn't been back long at all. And they like, you got the car tonight. Okay. So I stayed at the fire department. Sure enough, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, got paged out interstate, wreck with injuries, entrapment. I get there, and this lady had T-boned, and I still don't know how she done it. She T-boned a guardrail.
He was sitting in her lap.
And the guardrail had horseshoed, and part of it was against the steering wheel, and part of it was against her. She was literally
gosh.
trapped by the horseshoe of that guardrail. The guardrail curved around the console,
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
that's
she was
hard
pinned
lick.
by that. And I get there, I get on scene, and
never
it's me
forget it.
and Jamie Mills, and I was like, I ain't never seen nothing like that in my life. And I was like, I hollered at Chance, I said, think I'm gonna need some help. Will these cutters cut a guardrail?
Don't know yet.
I don't know. Try to see.
No one likes that.
We ended up cutting the guardrail and cutting the roof off
Yeah,
and
took the
everything
roof
else.
off
Yeah,
and
it's
then
all
take it.
it's all kinds.
I mean,
of
it was through the car.
Yeah,
When
it
Terry
was-
got on the radio, I knew he had a lot more experience than me, but he was new back to the fire
Yeah,
department.
yeah, I hadn't
and
been
I
back.
thought, he's probably just not looking at the other side. That can't be real. He's like, no, it's in her lap. I'm like, no. I get there. I'm like, hey, man, that's in her lap.
He's right.
Told you. It's like, It cut it. I see that. But
That's
yeah,
crazy.
he mentioned the car. That was we done basically as on call. We kept somebody on call 24/7. We had a guy that had it one night, and Terry and I were actually out together at the Huddle House, and it was late, probably like 1 a.m. I don't know why we were out eating that late. Well, Terry worked third shift, so I guess we were staying up. My phone rings. I'm like, man, didn't answer it. Rings again. Man. So I answered, and it was Brian Davidson. He had the car. I said, what's up? He said, hey. And I hear sirens everywhere, and we weren't really listening to anything at that point except the fire channel. We were just minding our own business. And there's siren. And you mentioned, the PD. You were there because I remember pulling up. He had pulled up. He was going home to let his dog out at like 1 a.m. And he had got there at Lowe's when they just built Lowe's, and he found this car that was over the embankment. Yeah. It looked like it just had a 45, a non-injury accident. So he turns his lights on. Well, the car, it was a fire car. It said fire department. It had red lights like firemen had. But it looked like a police car.
Right.
So he gets out and said, hey, you okay? And evidently they didn't want nothing to do with the police or fire car or whoever it was, and decided to just throw it and drive and give it heck to get out of that gully. Well, when they come out of the gully, he said it like popped a wheelie, almost hit him, and just takes off.
Down 192.
So he gets on the radio and he's like, hey, dispatch, you may want to sit here and check his car out. I tried to check on him, they took off. Well, y'all end up getting in pursuit of it. And it goes down the bypass, and evidently it ends right there at the Parkway in 192.
Before the road was there.
It connected,
it was
it was
still
all
the
a
rock
field.
wall.
And they went through that field, and a fence post that went through that and almost got the driver. I mean, it was like this far. So he calls me, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, where are you at? He's like, I'm out here where they rent that now. And I looked at Harry. I'm like, I don't know what we need to do. I guess we need to go check on him. So we come up there, and there's like 500 cops and the fire car. And I don't remember who I spoke to, but you were there. It wasn't you that said it. I'm like, what's going on? I said, the fire department got in pursuit. Yeah. Like, whoa. we don't do that. What happened?
I've seen it before.
Yeah. But this guy's just innocent. He's like, oh, somebody had an accident. I'll put my lights on, check on him. And then he's like, whoa, this escalated. And then he calls me, and it's like, I don't know. I've never really had this happen, because back then, after 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, Tommy, he was a chief. He went home, and he was going to come out if it's bad, but it was usually just us.
Yeah.
So it's like, handle it. Okay. Well, I don't really know what we do in this situation.
How do we handle this? I say you go 98.
That's what we did.
That's exactly. I got back in the truck. Brian, you okay? Yep. Car, is it okay? Yep. So you had no involvement? Nope.
Okay.
Let's get out of here.
Let's go.
Tell them to call us if they need us.
Yep.
Man, we've had such a wild, weird ups and down careers,
Oh, yeah.
And you think about the fun we've had inside dispatch cutting up. You think about the tough stuff in there that you're like, I'm glad I'm alive, or
back in the day, like when you first started, we had a great, they would let you all come in and hang out. If you got working third shift is tough. People don't realize working third shift as law enforcement or as a dispatcher, it's tough. Mm-hmm. And you got to have that break or that time to interact with somebody, or it's just inevitably going to happen. You're going to fall asleep.
Yeah, there's only so much coast to coast you can listen to before you get scared and have to be around people.
And you all come in and hang out and play maybe a card game or something, because there wasn't a lot going on. And,
no, we was on the radio, and the radio was right on us. Yeah. It's right in us.
It's not like you lived in there. You come in, stay maybe 30 minutes or an hour at the most, and you go out and do your patrols and check back in or whatever. But it was a great time.
It always cracked me up because you mentioned earlier about, feedback, and that made me think of radios. If we're all together and you key up and there's 3 of us around, it's like, turn your radio down. Well, they'd be over at the firehouse at 2 a.m, just checking in, just having somebody to talk to, and phone would ring. Hey, city units over there? Maybe. What's up? Well, they'd got out on a call, had feedback, so everybody turned the radio down. Then the one guy that had his up thought, well, they got theirs up and turned his down. So everybody's radios are down.
Well, that happened.
Yeah, that does happen.
And it was funny if we was all in dispatch. All say there's 4 or 5 units, then we'd come up there, chilling out. Just maybe 3 back then, and you come up there and it's never fail that radio here like that. Just radio's down. I'm like, we're all right here. Well, I got to give it out. Turn off the radio and somebody.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, run off to the corner.
Go ahead.
Well, too, working holidays together, Thanksgivings and Christmases, because we don't get those days off.
Right.
You're there, you become your family. That's where your family's at. And
It's
back when we had bingo, we decided we was going to spend Christmas Eve together one night, just because the guys were there. That's back when Call of Duty was big, and the guys were up there doing all that, and some of the guys didn't have families back then. I had, a family, but I wasn't married or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, we're gonna stay up here and keep each other company. And we weren't really thinking about it, but time midnight hit, it's like, man, we ain't even ate, and there ain't nothing open. It's Christmas Eve, so luckily we had bingo. They had a kitchen, and we had like one of the best meals of corn dogs and fried food over there.
so
it really is amazing how close you get with a shift and with not just say the city police officers that were working, but the county guys that were working,
the EMS
dispatch,
crews, because
the state police,
the crews at EMS. That's one of the first. Mark worked at Rudder. We talked about him. He worked at the ambulance service for a long time.
I think Les did also.
Yeah, Les worked there. Fuzz worked there.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one of us that never truly worked there. I only took one call in my whole life for an ambulance. They had damage at the ambulance service, and they were staying at the fire department. And me and Les were down there. It's like 2:00 in the morning with Mark Rudder and Shamu. Brian Reams was the 2 on duty for the ambulance service, and they were staying at the county fire department. Well, they got double toned. 2 tones back to back. Well, there's only one crew. So they come out. Well, here's me and Les sitting on the front of the fire truck. We're both EMTs at that time. And they're like, hey, you go with me and you go with him. So Les went with Brian and I went with Rudder. And we ended up taking his Eagle Ridge Road. I'll never forget. He said, can you get me there? I thought, yeah, I can get you there. So we went down there, and there's a lady having a heart attack. And we put her in the back of the ambulance. He said, can you get me to BRMC? Yep. It's the only ambulance call I ever took from start to finish. I've drove a couple ambulances in, but I never did work for the ambulance service.
I'll tell this real quick. You mentioned ambulance service. I worked there quite a bit. I was a cadet there, like I mentioned, but I've heard y'all tell some funny stories, so I'll tell this on myself. I run out to the interstate one day for a wreck with the fire department. I get there. I'm with the ambulance service also, but I wasn't working that day. And this guy's hurt pretty bad. He'd wrecked a motorcycle, and Tracy was there, and Tracy Sizemore. She said, we're going to need LZ. And back then, we actually had to give coordinates. That's how long ago that's been. You couldn't just tell them where you're going.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a GPS. She had one in her command vehicle with EMS and the Explorer. So I'll just take your Explorer up here to the 49. Let's land them there. I'll take it. That way I can give the coordinates. She said, okay, sounds good. We'll get loaded up in just a second. So I go up there and, I give the coordinates and try to look at everything, make sure I got the LZ lined out, and get out. Here comes the ambulance, and helicopter's on its way, and I'm in charge of the LZ, standing there with my radio and my fire hat, whatever I had on, just ready to do nothing except watch the helicopter land. I was a little worried about the gravel because it was a gravel parking lot, but it was packed down pretty well. Well, I had marked the opposite side of the parking lot with that Explorer. We had one side with the ambulance, and we had the other side with the Explorer, and I'm standing there, and Tracy's still in the back, and helicopter's coming down, everything's going perfect. And I kind of, out of the corner of my eye, see that Explorer start to move. And I thought, how'd she get in that? I thought she was in the ambulance. Oh, well, I'm watching this. It starts to get a little faster. Well, they had a big tanker, like a semi-tanker, down at the end of that drive down near the interstate, and it gets faster and faster. And now I'm just like full eyes on it, and just bam, just hits that thing. And the helicopter's coming in. They're kind of nervous at this point, and I'm real nervous because I don't know if it's going to explode or what just happened. So they land, and he's like, did you see that? Yeah, actually I did. And I looked in the back of the ambulance, and Tracy's still in there. So long story short, I'm not sure if I left it in drive or if I didn't put it all the way in park. Something happened that it was not in park when we got in. Once we figured out it had hit that tanker, and she gets out and she's like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Yeah, about that. I need to talk to you about something." I said I'd set up an LZ. I didn't say that I would do it with the car in park. So I don't really know what happened, but I'll tell a good one because I tell that, and they're like, "What happened to the vehicle?" Oh, it was pretty bad damage at that point, but.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
There was always those calls at dispatch too that you would take a call and you're like, oh, I can't wait to give this one out. And one was always that burglar alarm at the house across from Bench Farm Supply up on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
You all hated that alarm.
Yes. The place is haunted.
Well, me and Derek, we didn't. So that might have been.
We knew the story.
Yeah, because we'd come down there. So that was my favorite time policing. It was right there. Derek House was the supervisor.
807.
Yeah, and you had me and
I think me and Mark Bagley was working.
you all were up there.
Third shift.
Sometimes, for some reason, me and Josh Gaylor were there for a little while, and even Brian Lawson. There was a time when it was just a bunch of, I was like, oh my gosh, Rodney Van Zant was down there for some. And Matt Moore was always, he was down there. He was on night shift at the time. It was just guys, dude.
Yeah.
We were, it was just fun. And Eric Wilkerson and some other ones. And I remember Derek and I just scared to death of that place. It was me, because I would sit there and listen to Coast Guard. Doug Thomas.
Derek fool you.
He'd come up there too. Doug Thomas would get, you listen to that? And, just different stuff. It was just so much fun. And you guys would be like, I couldn't imagine the joy on your face.
Oh, yeah. It's like, oh,
City units, guess what?
Yeah.
And that night that, we talked about that, me and Derek did, the night the lights started flashing. And but the funnier one was one time me and Josh were walking around it, and I said, "Josh," he's like, "What?" He'd already finished, checked it. I said, "Did you forget that this place is haunted?" In typical Josh Gaylor face, that, huh? Let's go. I was like, but it was just that was just the highlight of, that was so much fun. Every now and then Stuart will be down there for some, I was like, what are you doing down here tonight? I couldn't find, but it was just a fun time policing. Eddie on night shift, all at the county, and all them guys Daryl's in it.
Talking about Daryl and Eddie, I was there the night that they went to the cigarette barn. Did y'all hear it?
I've not heard this one.
So, burglar alarm goes off, South 25, there by just before you get to 552 on the right.
Yeah.
So it's in the parking lot. Daryl and Eddie, 11:10 go. And they get out. Sure enough, he's in there. They 10:15 him. Daryl puts him in Eddie's car. And they tell us they're 10:15. Probably, it wasn't 90 seconds. 11:08, London. 11:08. 11:10, let this guy steal my cruiser.
Have you ever heard that?
I hadn't heard that.
11:08, what? 11:10, let him steal my cruiser. We're in pursuit. 11:10's car. Daryl had put him in the back of Eddie's car, and Eddie had one of those cruisers. The
No cage.
It had the cage, but it had the flip down. The flip down cage. Where you could flip it down and it was open. And Eddie kept his down. Well, Daryl didn't pay no attention. He just put him in there. Well, that guy slipped his cuffs. Went over to that back seat. And Eddie left his car running.
Man.
So he jumped right in the driver's seat and took off. Well, they chased him down South 25. And Eddie's calling out, God rest his soul, he's calling out the play-by-play. London, we're turning on the road that turns there across from the Midway Market. Turns up the hill. Oh, I can't remember the name of it now, but Ridge something. What is the name of that road? Anyway, they didn't go very far. London, he's wrecked out here.
Oh, Slate Ridge.
Yeah, Slate Ridge Road, yeah. And he said, he's wrecked out here. 10:45. I said, "You need an ambulance?" No, he's 10-4, we think. In about, I don't know,
Yep. He's going to need
couple
an
of
ambulance.
Not gonna send one.
a couple of minutes. Lonnie, you might want to go and see the ambulance out here. I think he's going to need one. He's fell down and he's getting out of the car. You know,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you let him steal my car.
yeah.
Counseling
Let him
session.
steal my car.
He's let him steal my car.
So Zan, he won't come on, you know. But anyway, he's the reason I got in policing. We roomed together when we stationed in Belgium.
Oh yeah.
And that is how my first ride along was with him. And I was like, yes.
think
Even
mine-
though I got car sick,
Yeah.
but I was like, this is it. And we didn't do nothing.
Was that
night.
my neighbor? I think was with you guys. Adam Harville was that?
Oh, Adam was there. I love, that. There's a group of old Marines,
Yeah.
him, J Max, some other, you know.
So Daryl
that-
got you involved.
But he's the one that got me involved in policing. You can thank that guy.
Thank Daryl.
Yeah, what a
Daryl
mess.
always kind of remind me of Snez. Daryl never really got excited.
He didn't get
Until he
excited.
got
but-
excited.
Yeah.
That he was real. He's
Oh,
like,
and once he's mad. Once he's mad, he's mad.
Yes.
He,
And there's no talking him down.
Fuzz made him mad one night.
oh, there ain't no.
Coming out-
Oh yeah, I remember
Coming
that.
out of his
yeah.
first that Fuzz
Yeah.
had just bought a brand new truck and they'd done a bachelor party. And Fuzz went and dropped somebody off down there in East Burnston. He's coming out. Well, 2:00 in the morning, a brand new Chevrolet pickup coming out of East Burnston. That's an anomaly.
Yeah.
You know, well,
Yeah, that was the chop house. That was,
that was, you
that
know,
was the chop shop
yeah.
down there.
Well, Daryl turns on him. And I think Dougie Jones was riding with Daryl. Somebody was riding with him. I can't remember who. Maybe,
With me, I'd have got out.
But Fuzz, it was Fuzz, and I think maybe Nick Minton. I can't remember who was in with Fuzz. Well, Fuzz pulls over in the little gravel lot there just before you get to 490. Or he's on 490 just before you get to North 25. There's a little hardware store, and he
Yeah.
pulls over in that gravel lot. Well, he don't get out. And Daryl pulls in behind him, and Daryl gets out, and Fuzz. He lets Daryl get about halfway to the truck. And takes off. Well, when he took off, Daryl had just got a brand new cruiser. I mean, it was like he might have had it a few days. And
They
Fuzz threw rocks and broke one of his marker lights at the front.
Yeah,
of the
he didn't know he
cruiser.
had that truck.
Oh, no.
So when Daryl went to run back to the truck, well, Fuzz stopped again. Well, Daryl started to walk back up, and he kept jumping like he's going to run. Finally, Daryl was spitting mad. He got up there and said it was Fuzz, and he just turned around and went back to the cruiser. They ain't there for him the rest of the night. He didn't-
I bet he went and hit. There was something. There was damage somewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Daryl used to have Travis Napier with him
Yeah.
a lot. Travis would ride with him, and
Yeah.
they'd been by the fire station. And I was getting ready to head home that night, and they'd had a complaint somewhere out 363, and I lived out 363, so I was heading home, and they had just went 98. You know, they'd cleared the call, and I'm going out through there, and I see the car. So I flip my headlights off, and kind of weave at them, just playing with them, flip them back on. I gun it. Well, I see them pull out behind me. I see the blue lights. I thought, oh, they're messing with me. So about that time, I called Travis. I'm like, I see y'all back there. I heard you go 98. I was heading to the house. And he said, no, we're not out of the subdivision yet. I said, what do you mean? About that time, 1193 London, I'm in pursuit. I said, oh, God. I said, hey, I thought that was you guys. You need to yell at him, which I knew who it was. And I said, you need to yell at them real quick. I said, I'm stopping here. I thought it was them because I'd just been with them. And so they yelled at him real quick, and he got out. He said, you got me on that one, but you talk about a heart-stopping moment here. I thought, it's just my buddy I'm on the phone with. No, that wasn't him at all.
I'm going to jail.
Sir, I'm sorry.
Man,
You'll never believe this, but
man, I know. Okay, so most firefighters we've talked to have got some kind of prank, something crazy in the firehouse. I know y'all have got something that y'all have.
I plead the fifth.
Because y'all are still there. You don't want to rub that, but yeah, that.
I will give you that there is stuff that does happen in the firehouse. If Chance wants to tell you something,
I don't remember
the
anything.
story for a later day.
yeah, that's,
There we go.
We'll go off.
I'm still employed by the fire commission. So.
I forgot who y'all were. No,
We got out one night. It snowed real bad, and we'd been running some calls, and one of these guys that should have been running calls with us wasn't running calls. I said, what's going on? So we went and got some saran wrap. And we got out and we saran wrapped his whole vehicle about 25 times. He wasn't going to get in that car. So next morning he calls, my kid broke his arm. I said, you did? Yeah. I said, when? Last night. I said, well, is everything okay? He said, no, I couldn't take him to the hospital. I said, why not? He said, my truck was saran wrapped. I said, well, probably should have called an ambulance. He just got quiet. He said, you know anything about it? I said, yeah, 911, you need to call an ambulance. He said, no, my truck. I said, no, I don't know nothing, brother. He said, I think you do. I said, I don't want to know how your kid's arm is. Let's focus on what matters. He didn't break his arm. I said, I didn't think he did.
Yeah.
Calling your bluff.
Yeah.
He said, I saw the footprints. They look like yours. And technically, they were not mine. They were someone else's.
Do you have a weird?
Can't say I may or may not have been there. They weren't my
footprint.
I may have been in the truck, but they were not my footprints.
You come 10-8. When they fight, when them you get out, we're coming.
Yeah.
Coming for you. Well, you guys, this has been a blast. What else you got going on? I know you got some things you're doing right now.
Raising children, running for magistrate,
Cool.
District 5 here in Laurel County. We go back to the board thing with the fire department. Got on the board in December of 2017, and we've done a lot of good things, I feel like. But in the midst of that, I decided, as the chairman of the board, I probably need to be plugged into politics, and started attending physical court meetings. And
nobody can talk you out of that, huh?
Terry's a good friend. He didn't tell me not to. But I got involved in that, and it kind of evolved, and I think we've got a lot of momentum behind us, and things are on the right track. And I bring a fresh set of eyes to the fiscal court, and I get along with all those folks. There's no bad blood or anything like that, but sometimes change is a good thing. It's constant and necessary for growth, and so that's a big to do right now in the midst of just normal daily life. But we'll see how that goes on May the 19th. So if you know anybody that's in District 5, I know this ain't a political thing, but I would sure appreciate the vote. And obviously, I've worked hard for many years free of charge, so I'll continue to work hard for us.
Yeah, well,
It's not like the matrix pays that much anyway.
no, I didn't know if they pay them. Way to go. No, well, this has been a blast.
Absolutely.
Were you even around when you had the handheld GPSs to go call in a helicopter, Dylan?
No. No.
Dylan, I can tell when I'm carrying.
This is the hand.
Yeah,
Right.
the old Apple phone.
Yeah, let's hear it if you've got one.
let's hear it on Karen.
I got one on Karen. Yeah, since you're here, we were working. I can't remember if it was day or night. Me and Karen were working, and she gets a call, and it's this guy traveling down the interstate, and she's on the phone with. I can't remember if it's a man or a woman, and she's calling in about the car next to her, and the gentleman in the car next to her was doing some unspeakable things to himself. So Karen, being Karen, a good dispatcher, she's getting as much information as she can, and staying on the phone with the caller. Well, they're coming, I think they were coming north, and in her defense, she was just saying, what the gentleman on the call was telling her. And it had started out near Corbin. Well, by the time they got to, I think it's exit 38 is where they were at finally. And he exited the interstate at exit 38, and she keyed up to tell them that he was getting off at the 38.
Well, good for him.
Okay, well, we're good.
London, UTL.
We'll bring him a cigarette.
So, that was one call I can remember. From, we talked about some of the funny things.
Oh, yeah.
We'll end on a light note.
That's a good one.
I've seen a lot of dark things and a lot of good things.
Yeah, man.
It's we'll end on a light one.
Yeah,
That's great.
It is our line of work. You see a lot, and it's good to.
Well,
I was thinking about. We talked about Eddie. We've talked about Les. We've talked, and you're like, man, some of these legends are gone,
no.
and it, you know, I was thinking about Jason the other day, Van Hook, and I'm like, man, there's just so many.
I could tell you a bunch of
Oh, I
people.
know. We'll do a whole way.
Yeah, you need to get like a bunch of people that just knew Jason and sit down in a room and do a round table about him.
That's what we've been talking about doing, is doing a big round table, just a liars club.
Yeah,
It's just
for him.
Yeah, I think
There's
that'd be a
so
good
many
one.
people that could tell you stuff about
I know,
him.
but it's just so. We've been very blessed to work with some fine folks in
absolutely.
our careers and some legends, and you guys. I pray for you all the time. I miss you guys. It's good to get together like
Oh, yeah.
this.
It is. It is.
is.
It's, you know, once you get out, and I'm fortunate enough that they allow me to come back in 4-hour increments.
Right.
That's what I say. They say I'm a black cloud every time I come to work dispatch. Something crazy happens, and they say I'm the black cloud now. But they'll let me come and do 4-hour increments. They won't let me do a whole shift because
too much devastation.
Too much
can happen.
devastation can happen. But I did one this week. I talked to you that night. So
That's weird. It's weird. I've called dispatch twice since I've retired for Laurel County, and once was something crazy that was, you know, some neighbor bleeding on my front porch, and then the next time I call, I'm like, "What are you?" I was like, I looked down at my phone. Yeah. I was like,
what
"Well,
year
I
is
accidentally
this?
called
Am I
your
the
cell
fly?
phone."
Yeah, am I
I
the
was like,
fly zone?
yeah, and so here I was like, well, huh. And I'm like, well, this is old times.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I was like a blast from the past.
He's like,
man. It
this
was
is
good.
Travis. That's a T-Dot.
And I was like, what? I was like, I can't just say that anymore.
PTSD.
Yeah. So it was good. So this has been a ball. It's
Absolutely.
good catching up,
Yeah.
and good luck to you.
Appreciate you, man.
And we'll continue praying for both you guys as you all continue on your things. And
Thank you for having us. It's
Yeah.
been really
Thanks
enjoyable.
for coming on. I've enjoyed it.
I would like to give a shout out to my little girls, Presley and Lily, because
Absolutely.
if I don't, then they would probably be upset and say, "Daddy,
Well,
you
you
didn't
don't
mention
want
that."
that.
So,
PK would be mad.
Yeah.
so
You better.
they're good ones. And Charlie, he could care less at this point. He's 15. But Presley and Lily, they're my babies. So
There you
I just
go.
want to say hi to them in case they get to listen.
His little girl PK, she's my buddy.
Oh yeah,
As long as I bring her a Reese cup. So
yeah.
I'll tell you a story
Yeah.
about PK. I brought her a Reese cup, but it was Easter egg. It was the egg Reese cup. Well, it was closer to Valentine's Day. She said, "It should have been a heart."
yeah, this is
Not
this
an
is wrong.
egg. This is wrong.
Well, they keep coming out with them earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So,
She's something else.
She's
But
a
I was
side.
talking to Terry the other day. We talk all the time, and she said, "Daddy, who is Terry?" I said, "Well, that's Booger." She said, "Well, why do you have him saved as Terry?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, that's his name." She said, "No, it's not."
there's so many people that didn't know my name for a long time. So
Well, this has been a ball.
Thanks, you guys.
Absolutely.
yeah, thank
Hope you
y'all.
guys have enjoyed listening to it as much as we've enjoyed participating in it. And we'll catch you on the next one.